In 1970, Peter Boyle performed a factory worker who hated hippies. The film earned thousands and thousands and made him famous, but something went terribly incorrect. People started cheering while his man or woman attacked hippies. They cherished his racist rants. They dealt with his violent person like a hero. However, he in no way desired to portray that. The role haunted him so much, he refused to ever play violent characters once more. His own family continues to be managing the shocking fallout these days. Peter Boyle turned into Born on October 18, 1935, in Norristown, Pennsylvania. His father, Francis Xavier Boyle, became a famous television persona in Philadelphia. 1951 and 1963, he hosted a Western-themed kids show as Chuck Wagon Pete, and later ran an after-college application called Uncle Pete Presents The Little Rascals. On that show, he added younger audiences to traditional comedy shorts like The Little Rascals and The Three Stooges. He additionally made appearances on Ernie Kovac's Morning Display on WPTZ, now KYW-TV. Boyle's family historical past was a mixture of Irish, French, English, and Scottish heritage. Raised in a strict Catholic family, he grew up surrounded by using each non-secular area and the affect of entertainment. As the youngest of 3 children, Boyle had 2 older sisters, Alice and Sydney. His circle of relatives moved to Philadelphia throughout his early life, in which he attended West Philadelphia Catholic High School for boys. His early years had been fashioned extra by using religion and shape than by means of any desires of performing. After graduating in 1953, he made a decision that set him on a totally exceptional route. He joined the De La Salle Brothers, a Catholic coaching order. For 3 years, he lived in their residence of research while pursuing a Bachelor of Arts degree in Philadelphia. By 1957, he had finished his training, however. He no longer felt a calling to non-secular lifestyles. The strict workouts and expectancies of monastic residing had come to be an excessive amount of gear, and he knew he needed something different. Leaving the monastery turned into a turning factor. Boyle had spent years believing his destiny became in spiritual provider. However, now that bankruptcy changed into he was lost for a while, trying to figure out what came subsequent. Eventually, he located his answer in acting. He moved to New York City and enrolled at HB Studio, reading beneath the mythical Uta Hagen. Her coaching focused on realism and emotional depth, pushing actors to find fact of their performances. It turned into a really perfect suit for Boyle, who had spent years gaining knowledge of discipline and introspection. Life in New York wasn't clean. Boyle had no consistent income, so he took whatever jobs he may want to discover to support himself. He labored as a postal clerk at some points of the day and took shifts as a waiter and bouncer at nighttime. He even labored as a cameraman for Florence Hanford's cooking show, Television Kitchen. Every job gave him a new perspective. He determined people, studied their behaviors, and stored the one's info for destiny roles. Had become something he deeply understood, and that expertise might later define his appearing fashion. Despite the economic hardships, Boyle turned in decided he began getting small-level roles, and certainly one of his earliest breakthroughs came when he turned into Forged in The Odd Couple. It wasn't a main part, but it was enough to hold him transferring forward. He was getting to know the craft, constructing experience, and proving to himself that this become in which he belonged. By the overdue 1960s, he took any other large step. He joined the Second City comedy troupe in Chicago. The organization changed into known for mixing sharp humor with social and political observation, and Boyle thrived in that environment. Peter Boyle's adventure into movies started in 1966 with an uncredited function within the group, a drama directed by means of Sidney Lumet. The film observed 8 Vassar graduates as they navigated careers, relationships, and the inflexible expectancies of the 1930s. Boyle's position was small, however, operating on a manufacturing of this scale gave him a primary hand look at Hollywood. The film featured a sturdy ensemble forged, inclusive of Candice Bergen and Joan Hackett, and tackled issues of gender roles and class struggles. This became just the start. He wasn't a recognized call, but but he became already entering into projects that had something to say. 2 years later, in 1968, Boyle landed his first credited function as General Heath in The Virgin President, a political satire directed by way of Graham Ferguson. The movie told the story of a naive president who became without difficulty manipulated with the aid of the ones around him, leading to disastrous effects. Boyle's role as the stern, however barely absurd widespread, delivered its weight and humor to the tale. Though the film did not emerge as a main hit, it suited into the growing wave of countercultural films that challenged authority and puzzled the political panorama. Boyle turned into already attracted to roles that driven barriers, and this turned into one in all his first chances to explore that side of his craft. He took on another small but memorable role in Medium Cool, a groundbreaking film by means of Haskell Wexler. Boyle performed a gun clinic supervisor in a tale that blurred the road among fiction and fact. The film became set in the course of the turbulent activities surrounding the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, with real pictures of protests woven into the narrative. It was a formidable and revolutionary mission, exploring media ethics and the growing disconnect between journalism and truth. Boyle's role was brief, but the film itself turned into one of the most talked-about releases of the year, The Monitors, a sci-fi satire directed by Jack Shea. The story imagined a world in which extraterrestrial beings had taken manage, imposing peace through strict surveillance and absolute authority. Boyle played a manufacturing supervisor in a film that blended dystopian subject matters with dark humor, reflecting the Cold War anxieties of the time. While The Monitors failed to find a huge target audience, it gave Boyle some other risk to experiment with offbeat storytelling. Peter Boyle changed into just any other suffering actor before Joe came along in 1970. He had executed small TV roles and minor parts in films, however nothing that made him stand out. That changed whilst he landed the lead position in Joe, a low-budget drama directed by way of John G. Avildsen. The movie valued best $106,000 to make, but it greatly surprised anyone with the aid of grossing over $19,300,000 in the US. It had become the 13th highest grossing film of the year. Something almost remarkable for an unbiased film. But greater than just a monetary success, Joe hit a nerve with audiences. Some noticed it as a darkish reflection of America on the time. Others saw something a long way more troubling. Boyle performed Joe Curran, a blue-collar factory employee who changed into Phil with rage. He hated hippies, he hated liberals, he hated the entirety about the converting culture of the overdue 1960s. He wasn't just an angry man. He represented a developing part of America that felt left in the back of. Boyle almost didn't take the function due to how arguable it changed into. But Norman Wexler's screenplay had something sharp and real, approximately it. Boyle knew the movie wasn't just about one guy's bigotry. It changed into approximately an entire technology's worry and frustration. His overall performance was so severe that people couldn't appearance away. He didn't play Joe as a one-beware villain. He made him sense like a actual person, which made the character even greater disturbing. The film follows Joe as he befriends Bill Compton, a rich marketing government performed through Dennis Patrick. At first, the two guys seem absolutely exclusive, but as they speak, their shared prejudices bring them nearer. That results in one of the maximum rampage at a hippie commune. By the time Bill realizes he has unknowingly killed his personal daughter, it's too past due. The film ends on that intestine-wrenching "be aware," leaving audiences stunned. But what took place next became something Boyle never anticipated. Audiences failed to just watch Joe. They reacted to it in ways he found terrifying. The movie turned into meant to be a critique of hatred and violence, But some people failed to see it that way. Construction employees and conservative organizations applauded Joe's rants. They cheered all through scenes in which he lashed out at hippies and liberals. Instead of being disturbed, they felt tested. Boyle became horrified. He had taken the position to mission audiences, now not to provide them a hero. Seeing humans rejoice, Joe's movements made him reconsider his profession selections. He refused to take roles that glorified violence or bigotry. That's why he turned down the lead within The French Connection, 1971, an element that in the end gained Gene Hackman an Oscar. Boyle did not want to chance playing every other character who is probably misinterpreted. In The Candidate, 1972, he performed Marvin Lucas, a political representative who knew precisely how to turn a no one into a refined flesh presser. Robert Redford's Man or Woman, Bill McKay, starts off evolved out as an idealist. He would not care approximately prevailing, he just needs to talk his mind. But Lucas knows that may not paintings. He slowly reshapes McKay. At a time, Boyle performs Lucas with quiet self-belief. He is not a villain. He isn't always corrupt. He simply knows the sport. That's what makes him so unsettling. By the time McKay wins the election, he slightly recognizes himself. The movie's sharp satire exposes how politics turns humans into merchandise, and Boyle is at the middle of it. The movie gained an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, and Boyle's overall performance is a large motive why it still feels relevant today. Just a year later, in The Friends of Eddie Coyle, 1973, Boyle performed a very exceptional kind of manipulator.